Assalamu alaikum. Ladies and gentlemen, so far we have finished two reading selection, that is reading selection 5.1, which was related to technology, and then we have talked about reading selection 5.2, gender inequality is detrimental to society. We have finished reading the text of both those lessons, and we have discussed their exercises. I hope you have watched those videos and I hope you understood them well. Today, inshallah, we are going to finish off Unit 5. We have the last reading selection in Unit 5, that is reading selection 5.3, The Schoolboy, which is basically a poem by William Black. He is one of the most visionary romantic poets in British English. You can see he was born in 1757 and he died in 1827. William Black is called as the visionary poet in English literature in Romantic era. Visionary, you will find it out in the poem that we are going to discuss today. The title of the poem is The Schoolboy. Normally, what we expect of a schoolboy, or what is expected of him, is very much common, conventional. You will see something different in the perspective of Black. We are going to see what exactly is his stance regarding a student, regarding youth, and how when we term him as a visionary poet, how is he going to demonstrate this vision or being visionary in the poem. So I'm going to discuss the text of the poem and I'm going to explain the poem along stanza wise. So we are going to analyze the poem. Kindly open your books on page number 209. This is reading selection 5.3, the last reading selection in Unit 5. Alright, look at the first stanza. I'm going to read the whole poem first and then I'm going to explain it stanza wise, right? I love to rise in a summer morn when the birds sing on every tree. The distant huntsman winds his horn and the skylark sings with me. Oh, what a sweet company. But to go to school in a summer morn, oh, it drives all joy away. Under a cruel eye outworn, the little ones spend the day in sighing and dismay. Then at times I drooping sit and spend many an anxious hour. Nor in my book can I take delight, nor sit in its learning's bower, worn through with the dreary shower. How can the bird that is born for joy sit in a cage and sing? How can a child, when fears annoy, but droop his tender wing and forget his youthful string? Oh, father and mother, if buds are nipped and blossoms blown away, and if the tender plants are stripped of their joy in the springing day, by sorrow and care's dismay, how shall the summer arise in joy, or the summer fruits appear? Or how shall we gather what grief destroy, or bless the mellowing air when the blasts of winter appear? It's an interesting point, and the point that he ponder on is the formal education. This is basically the critique of the formal education that we provide to our kids. There are of course issues with that, and according to Black, these issues are, like we do not provide them the environment that they deserve. Most of the time we are pushing our students towards something they don't want to do, sometimes by their parents, sometimes by their teacher. Most of the time by their parents. There are so many students, there are so many people around us that they are doing something, they are doing a degree, or they are studying a subject, or they are going into a field they do not want to. Just because they are doing it, maybe of a societal pressure, of the of the society definitely, or the pressure that they are going to face from their parents. Most of the time their parents are pushing them. Okay, since we do not have a doctor in our family, you are going to become a doctor. Alright, we don't have an engineer in our family, you are going to be an engineer. We don't have a CSS officer or a CSP or a commissioned officer in our family, you are supposed to do this and that. That is how we are being guided throughout our career, which is of course wrong. When you don't want to do something and you are pushed into doing that thing, you will take it as a burden. Right? And when you take something as a burden, you will never enjoy doing that. You will regret it for the rest of your life, and you will just take it as a job. If you take your hobby as a job, you will love doing that, and you will also be doing your job. That is we can say you will enjoy and you will do the job at the same time. This thing is being critiqued, and specifically the very institution of education. The standard of education that has been critiqued at this point. Let's see it quickly, stanza-wise. I'm going to read again the first stanza. I love to rise in a summer morn when the bird sings on every tree. The distant huntsman winds his horn, and the skylark sings with me. Oh, what a sweet company. In the first stanza, the writer or the speaker of the poem, that is a small boy, a student, he is actually expressing his thought. He said, I love to rise in the summer morning. You have to keep one thing in mind, that the contextual meaning of summer morning, definitely summer morning in Pakistan or in Asia or in South Asia, they are not that pleasing, but they are definitely quite different from the summers in Asia than of the Europe, okay? Or you can say that the summer that we have in Britain or in European countries, since there is most of throughout the year the weather is definitely most of the time it is cold. So in summer they are having spring basically. That is not exactly the summer that we used to experience in June, July or August. So you have to keep that thing in mind. It is as if we are enjoying the same situation in March maybe, right? So he loved to rise in that morning when every bird is singing on the tree. The distant huntsmen, when they blow their horns to attract their prey and then hand them down, it's a sweet company. He loved to enjoy all of that. He is trying to grasp the meaning of life or different experiences directly from the environment. That is one thing. That is one way to learn something, right? And the skylark sings with me. And when he is going out in those fields, he thinks that I have a connection with the nature. With those birds even, I believe that they are singing with me. So there is a strong connection between him and the nature, which Black is definitely the proponent of this idea that we should stay close to nature. And as Wordsworth said that nature is our guardian. It teaches us. It even punishes us. It guides us throughout our lives. So Black is also somehow advocating the very philosophy of Wordsworth in the very first stanza. So he named it. He tagged it. What a sweet company. I love to do this. That is not the problem that I want to get up early in the morning. The problem is, which is being discussed in the next stanza. Look at stanza number 2. But to go to school in a summer morn, oh, it drives all joy away. The very thought of going to school in such an interesting environment, in such a beautiful company, when I think of going to school, immediately all this joy, all this connection, these, the connection that I have developed with the nature, all these things that vanishes, they have just disappeared, from the memory or from the peace that I was getting out of it. Under a cruel eye outworn, the little ones spend the day in sighing and dismay. Under a cruel eye outworn. Definitely in schools there are different rules and regulations. You cannot go in a certain costume. You have to dress up properly for that. There are certain rules for that. At the same time, in schools there are different rules and regulations. You are supposed to sit in a proper class. If you don't want to, you have to sit in that class. There are certain forced rules on you. So he don't want to spend the whole day in school while sitting under a cruel eye. The teacher, he is pushing the student most of the time to do something if they even don't want to. So he don't want to do that. He doesn't want to be forced into something, in short. The little ones spend the day, of course, the small kids, in sighing and dismay. They are waiting, they are checking their watches when this class will be over so that I can go outside. They feel that they are being caged. They are being, they feel as if they are in the prison, right? Look at the third stanza. Then at times I drooping sit and spend many an anxious hour, nor in my book can I take delight. So what happens when you frustrate somebody, when you force somebody into doing something they don't want to? What will happen? They will drooping sit. They will be exhausted, right? And this will kill their creativity. They will take it as a burden, not as an interesting activity. So the writer says, or the speaker of the poem says, that I do the same thing and spend many an anxious hour. I spend most of my time thinking. I spend most of my time to be spent as soon as possible. I am not enjoying the time. I want to get rid of that very moment. Time is everything. If you push somebody into something, the same thing which we used to say time is money or time is everything, the same delight becomes a problem, a pinching issue for you. You want this time to be, to be spent quickly, right? Nor in my book can I take delight, nor sit in learning's bower, gone through the dreary shower. And the student, he said that I can't take delight in reading the book either. I don't want to read a book in such a situation. Maybe the student wants to sit somewhere outside in an open environment and read the book and enjoy the nature at the same time. But that is not the environment he is getting in the formal education. And he is not getting whatever is being explained by his teacher, the shower of knowledge that is being poured over him. He is not interested in that. He is not taking any interest in that, and the reason is he has already explained that. Gone through the dreary shower, and he is tired of all this. He is depressed. He is the situation is bleak. Everything is dark for him. He does not want this, right? For example, you are hungry for something and you are being provided with another thing. Definitely you will not take interest in that what you have been provided with, right? You would like to have something that you are hungry of, that you want to do, right? Look at the next stanza, stanza number 4. How can the bird that is born for joy sit in a cage and sing? This is a very good example, an analogy, a simile, and a metaphor. How can a bird that is born for joy sit in a cage and sing? This is an implied metaphor that what are the birds for? They are supposed to fly. They are supposed to stay open and free and emancipated in the environment. But if you cage them in a cage, and if you put them in a cage and ask them to sing, that is not going to happen. How can they sing if they are not free, if they are not open, right? So in the same way, by singing here, he means to say that these students cannot be creative. When you cage them physically in a classroom, it is as if you have caged them mentally at the same time, right? So their mental processes, the critical thinking, you are killing their creativity. How can a child, when fears annoy, but droop his tender wing and forget his youthful spring? And how can a child, in the same way, if a bird cannot sit in a cage and sing, in the same way, how can a child, when fears annoy, when he is being irritated, when he is in the fear of being troubled, how can he then but droop his tender wing and forget his youthful spring? And how can he forget about his youthful spring? How can he forget the pleasures of the environment or nature outside? He cannot do that. He will be thinking of something else. Most of the time we have our students in the class, they are present physically in the class, but mentally they are somewhere else. Basically that phenomenon is being discussed in these 2 lines. That sometimes the students are physically sitting in front of a teacher, but they are mentally absent, they are mentally somewhere else. Look at the second last stanza. Now he is going to address their parents. Oh, father and mother, if buds are nipped and blossoms blown away. He is telling his parents that if the birds, the very initial stages of a plant to grow, if those buds, before the flower comes, there are buds, small buds, if they are nipped, if they are cut off, if they are trimmed initially, immediately, and blossoms blown away, and all those beautiful smells and fragrances and all those blossoms, those colors, they are blown away, they have been removed. And if the tender plants are stripped, and all these small innocent plants, by tender plants here means small kids, right? If they are stripped, if they are removed, if their leaves are removed from them, if they have been, kept naked by removing their leaves from them, of their joy in the springing day. If this injustice is being done to them in spring days, by sorrow and care's dismay, by doing what? By providing them, by giving them immense tension and pressure, what will happen? How shall the summer arise in joy? If you do all this to a plant, if you cut its buds, if you remove its blossoms, if you remove the leaves, all those leaves from a plant, how can you expect that it will rise in summer? It will not. It's a simple phenomenon. If you want the spring to come, you need to have buds for that. You need to have new plants for that. And definitely at the end of the day, when summer arrives or when spring arrives, these will become, the spring will definitely come through all of these things. But if you cut those very young plants of those buds, leaves and blossoms, how can the spring come? It will never come. Or the summer fruits appear. How will the fruit come if you cut the bud? Actually, the bud is the very initial stage of fruit. If you cut them, how will the flower come and then the fruit? Of course it will not. Or how shall we gather what grief destroy? And how can we gather all these things and make something out of it when it has been already destroyed? These kids, these students, they are being deprived of all these things in the class. They have been distorted of their mental capacities. They have not been given the groundings where they can find their potentialities in them. They have not been given those opportunities. So what will happen? Or bless the mellowing air. How will they come up with fruit? It means, and let me read the last line, when the blast of winter appear, it means that, for example, if you do not provide these kids with these open environments, if you do not give them the opportunity to think critically, don't expect anything new from them. You will not find any scientist in them. You will not, find any, you can say, critical thinkers in them. You will not find any theorists in them. They will be the product of a company. They will be all the same. Because you are not giving them the proper grounding to grow mentally, not just physically. You have caged them, right? So in the same way, if there is a different issue faced by them in the life ahead, they will never be able to tackle that. Because they don't have that capability in them. They have never been exposed to a different environment. They have been kept in a selected environment. That is why they will act as in a way that has been designed for them. For example, let's just take an example of the machines. I have this computer with me. It has the capacity of 500 GBs and 4 GBs RAM, for example. That is its most top capacity that I have provided it with. And I want that it should store more than 1 TB of data, or it should function with a double speed of 4 GB RAM. That is not going to happen. This computer is designed for a certain thing and it cannot do everything for me. It cannot walk out of the room. It will just stay here and I will work on that. And that is also limited to certain areas because it's a machine. I have fixed it in this place. I have installed certain software in it and it is supposed to do all these things only. If I give it another issue, right? For example, if I'm doing mathematics with this computer, yes, it will do the mathematics for me. But if I provide it with a social issue, if I ask this computer to write an essay for me, it cannot write an essay for me because it is not designed for that thing. In the same way, we have fed our students with certain and limited amount of things and knowledge. We have never encouraged them to go for something new, different, or think critically. In the same way, when they are grown-ups, when they are graduates, and they face a certain different issue in life, they cannot tackle it. That is the whole phenomenon of the point. I hope you understood the point. It's a very interesting point. It can be explained and talked about for so long. I'm not going to extend the class for you anymore. This was the very basic of the point. I hope you understood that. I will all inshallah see you in the next lecture. Thank you very much.